What is up, Texas hockey fans? And we just had what you could call a blockbuster trade with the Dallas Stars. This is Clean Sheet of Ice, a Texas hockey podcast presented by Apollo Media. This podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, our daily fantasy app of choice. Prize Picks is where you hit more or less on every stat, every night, every game, every player. Use code Apollo when you download the Prize Picks app and sign up and get up to $100 match on your first deposit. We love Prize Picks over here. I'm going to hit a lot of more thans the rest of the season. I hope they have more and less thans for Four Nations, because I would love to play around with that for 2 weeks. That'll be really fun. But shout out to Prize Picks. Dom, thank you for joining me on a Saturday afternoon. This morning, a lot of news broke this morning. It was kind of strange. So Thursday, I went to practice in Frisco, talked to Pete DeBoer in the press conference, and he gave us an update on Nils Lundqvist. He's got an upper body injury, but he can be back any day now, is what he said on Thursday. He can be back at any day. And then this morning at 9, 10 a.m., all of a sudden he's on LTIR. Shoulder surgery ending the season for him, which is really unfortunate because Nils is having his best season as an NHL player. He's not living up to some of the standards where they gave up a first-round pick for him, yada, yada, yada. He was having a really good season for him. I think he's gelling with the defense. He's been really good, but that sucks. He's on LTIR, and they put Tyler Seguin on LTIR, which I mentioned, I think, last episode or the episode before. I was like, they still haven't put Seguin on LTIR, which was strange to me. I didn't understand that. Now he goes on LTIR, cap maneuvering. They call up two AHL guys, and all of a sudden, 2 hours later, I think it was 2 hours later, then a trade happens. So it's Kevin Weeks saying San Jose is going to send Mikael Granlund to Dallas. They're working through the details now. We're like, oh my God, okay, all right. And then all of a sudden, it's Cody Ceci, defenseman, right-handed defenseman for San Jose. He's coming to Dallas now. And we're like, oh God, what's the return? Those are two UFAs, a little bit bigger money. I think it's $8.25 million combined, $5 for Granlund and $3.25 for Cody Ceci. They're going to be UFAs in the summer, but they make the trade, and all of a sudden it comes out. It's a first-round pick, which is a lot, and a fourth-round pick, conditional third-round pick if the Stars make the Stanley Cup final. Dom, thank you for joining me. What were your reactions to the trade this morning, the LTIR news? Like, everything happened all very quickly, and I was writing blogs, I was tweeting. It was chaos this morning. But what did you think about the trade and the LTIR news?
Yeah, it was so weird. I mean, I'm at the gym just, getting my normal Saturday workout in, and I got Stone asking, we don't get the news first about the trade. We get the news about Nils. And so he's like, all right, we need to think of like some, trade targets for defensemen, because like something might happen soon. We might be ready. We didn't think it was going to be like 30 minutes later. And it breaks. And then the worst thing about being on Twitter is you never know the return for like another 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes feels like an hour. So we're like, oh my gosh, dude, if we give up one of my boys, I might lose it. And we ended up not doing too bad, if you ask me. But it was just like, since episode 1, since me and Stone have been together, it was, we have some cap space. We'd like to make some moves because we need them. And to now finally get some progress done on that and get these new guys into the building. I think they're going to be playing, and we got a game tomorrow. Yep, I don't know. They might be playing. They might not. They are?
Yeah, I think Jim Nill and DeBoer both said they're on a plane. They're going to be here tonight in Dallas, and the plan is for them to be integrated and play tomorrow.
Yeah, so, the faster you get with the team, and this is perfect because you got a couple of games before Four Nations, and then you get comfortable, get everything situated, and then get ready to go. It was just very much just a time where I wasn't expecting to hear a trade from the Dallas Stars. Is the exact time we got a trade from the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, and last night, Friday night, I was at the game against Vancouver, and an hour before puck drop, like it's 5:55 p.m., 6 p.m., JT Miller, he's leaving the building. He's heading to New York. He waived his no-trade clause. He's out of there. Drama's over. Apparently, it's not over in any way, shape, or form. But Vancouver trades JT Miller, and we're like, oh, my God, that happened an hour before the game. He's a scratch. He's out. So that was a little chaotic yesterday, and I think in the locker room yesterday, it was really good vibes after that because it wasn't a great win. It was a good win because of how they didn't play very well, and they won 5-3. And so DeBoer only answered like 3 or 4 questions last night in the press room after the game. Like, he didn't really have too much to say about the game, and that was that. And I don't know if they were already talking about, hey, LTIR is happening tomorrow. We're going to make the trade tomorrow, like all that kind of stuff. He seemed very content and happy on the podium, because that usually doesn't happen very often. Like, sometimes he'll get a chuckle, and sometimes he hates the question. You never know when you get at DeBoer, and we love DeBoer, but you never know. And he didn't answer too many questions. There weren't too many questions to ask because we had talked to the player tribe before that and whatever. So I don't know if he was already knew the wheels were in motion or what was up there. But yeah, everything hit this morning. They practiced in Frisco this morning. It was optional skate. I didn't go because I was just like, yeah, I'm going to the game on Sunday. It'll be fine. I don't need to go. Turns out it would have been a great time to go because everything broke while they were at practice. Yeah, just a crazy turn of events to where LTIR happens and we're like, okay, Wednesday we're going to record. We're going to have a bunch of defensemen that we can pick from. Would you trade for them? Like that kind of stuff. Like, what are we going to talk about? Who are we going to go get right before Four Nations or right after? And all of a sudden it's over. Like, the trade already happened, and we got to hop on it. We got to talk about it. So, with the trade, Mikael Granlund, he has 45 points this year, which I believe is third or fourth in points for the Dallas Stars this season. If he was on the Stars the whole season, like, he'd be third or fourth, which is incredible because we have some studs on this team, absolute studs, just all stars and all NHL guys, like just veterans. We got rookies, we got the young guys that are just really damn good at the game of hockey and can score at a high rate. Mikael Granlund's right up there with them, which is surprising because he's playing with San Jose. So how do you see Granlund fitting into the team? Where do you see him fitting in on the lines? Like, when everyone's healthy, where does Granlund go? That we were talking about it pre-show, but I'm curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah, so doing as much in 10 minutes research about how Granlund's been out in San Jose, he's been great. Like, he was there to be a voice, but also his play spoke for itself as well. I mean, he's been playing really good, and that's saying a lot considering, like, our roster is not San Jose's, and the idea of adding him to the back end of our depth, everyone is going to assume, just because, what was sent out, it was high, but I don't look at it that way. This dude's going to come in. I believe he's also Finnish, so there's some more chemistry. There's weird chemistry between all of those guys, that country. But as I kind of sat back and, like, what line is he going to play on? You're going to have time to figure it out. And come postseason, it's going to be scary hours if he continues the level he's at this season, because we're not asking him to be a second line guy. We're not asking him to be a first line guy. We're asking him to be back end depth. And if you're thinking baseball, he's going to be our number 7 hitter. Like, and he's San Jose, he was their number 1 or 2, or really behind, celebrating really their number 3 hole. So, and he was a great 3 hole, but now he's coming over here, championship caliber team. And we just took out some really good teams over the past couple weeks without him and with the injuries that we've had. I like the trade as we sit, an hour or 2 afterwards, and I'm probably going to like it tomorrow when I see him on the ice. But Pierre DeBoer is going to have his hands full picking the right lineups. But once he does, I'm very confident that we're going to get some really good hockey, not only from him and Ceci, but from the guys who are eventually going to play next to him.
Yeah, I think Granlund fits right into your bottom 6. I think he goes on the third line by the time we get to the playoffs when everybody comes back healthy. Marchment is going to come back before Four Nations, reportedly. I think he's going to play a game or 2 before Four Nations starts. So that's huge, getting him back. Big left winger. He's 6'5". He's just a mammoth, and he was scoring at an alarming rate during the first 2 months of the season. So having him back is a big jump into your depth and your scoring ability and all that kind of stuff, and chemistry as well with Duchesne. Having Granlund in there, like, maybe you just run Duchesne, Ben, and Granlund is Sagan until Sagan comes back, and then after that, Granlund can just go to the third line with Ben and Dodonov or Ben and Stank and you just have kind of scary scoring opportunities on every line, because the fourth line, they're going to grind out a goal every other game or every 2 games. Like, they're going to be gross and disgusting, like they were last night against Vancouver. Obviously, Brendan Smith,
Yeah.
he does the forecheck, big hit, puck goes behind the net. Colin Blackwell, big hit, secures the puck, gets it to Oscar back, and back flips it into the net. And I was scared of Thatcher Demko last night. I thought he's 7-0-1 against the Stars. Like, he's just a stud against the Stars, which is really frustrating. But I didn't know how they were going to do. And then the fourth line scored, and I was like, all right, we're going to win this game. It's going to be gross, but we're going to win this game. Now you don't have to worry as much. Like Rupe, Wyatt, and Robo, they're fine. Not worried about them. And then when you get Marchment, Sagan, and Duchesne back together, not worried about that one. That's the best line of hockey. And then all of a sudden you got a third line: Stank, Ben, Granlund. Those three guys can score whenever they want to, and having speed, power, and scoring ability all on the same line is really intriguing to me. And then the fourth line, they're going to grind it out. They're going to lay some big hits. They're going to be physical, and they're going to get a goal every once in a while, and it's going to be really fun. I think it fits really well. And Granlund can also help out with the power play and the PK. He led time on ice for the Sharks. Him and Cody Ceci have led time on ice. They're 1 and 2 for the San Jose Sharks this year. Now they're not going to have to play 20 to 22 minutes a game. They're going to have to play 15 to 18. Like, they're not going to have as big of a workload, and things are going to be open on the ice for them because there's scarier pieces on the offense for the Dallas Stars. Like, people are going to be worried about Logan Stankoven and Jamie Benn more than they're going to be worried about Mikael Granlund. That's just what it is. Like, that just opens the ice up for Granlund, which is huge that he already has 45 points. I think it's 15 goals and 30 assists this year. Like, not worried about his fit, especially being Finnish. But Cody Ceci is the other interesting part of this trade. He's $3.25 million through the rest of this year. Then he's a UFA at the end of the summer, and he's just your third D pairing guy. He's a right-handed defenseman. He'll just go on the third D pairing when everyone comes back healthy. Miro comes back. Then you got a third right-handed defenseman, and then you can kind of play with your cards there with Dumba, Smith, and Ceci. Like, you're going to figure out which one of those guys is going to stand out enough to be your third-line right-handed defenseman, depending on the series and in the playoffs, obviously. But now you have options, and you have depth again, which you did not have this past week after Miro went out, which is huge. Depth at the defensive position come playoff time is going to be massive.
Yeah, and both Lian Bichsel and Ilya Lyubushkin, their play this year has definitely given you kind of a safety net, and we did not expect this from those two guys. Like, these guys, I feel comfortable in a playoff setting with these guys on the ice. I did not see that in the preseason. I mean, fucking Liam Bichsel's like 20. So for him to be that good kind of awards us a safety net, and we don't need a big fish. We just need, a mid-season innings eater in baseball. We need a Yusei Kikuchi, and that's what we got. And you can say like Dallas got fleeced. I don't believe that. I think the deepest team in the league just got better depth, and now there's going to be good players not even on the ice, healthy scratched, because we have so many of them. And, that first round pick, if we're going to where we're going to be, where I think we can be, it's going to be a bottom 3 pick in the first round. And I don't think there's a first round pick this year that would be as good as a Logan Stankoven or any of our younger guys or a Liam Bichsel. So, I'm cool with it. I like our chances to win now, and I like our chances to win 2, 3, 4 years from now.
Yeah, and I think preseason we were like, all right, the Stars are a cup contender for sure. They're a top 4 team in the entire NHL. The first 2 months of the season happens, we're like, maybe not. Maybe it's just not clicking the way it was. Maybe Joe Pavelski was that important to the locker room, which he was. Everyone loves Joe Pavelski in the locker room. They talk about him every time we're in there. Like, they love Pavs, and he was a huge part of that team. But his play in the regular season was good, and in the playoffs, he ran out of gas. Like, his legs went. Father Time is undefeated. It happens. His play wasn't good enough in the playoffs for the Stars to go win a cup, essentially. And I think that's where we were in the press box. We were like, this team's not good enough to win the cup the first 2 months of the season. And they had the best line in hockey at that time, but the rest of it just wasn't gelling. Wyatt Johnson wasn't working on the top line yet, and moving back with Ben, it starts to work out a little bit and then gets out of his funk. 4 Nations rosters come out. Robo, Wyatt just start picking up out of nowhere. And now it's all starting to gel again. And now they make this trade. And we're like, okay, now they're back. They're back to being cup contenders. They're back to being one of the Western Conference favorites. And they can beat anyone on any given night, even with the injuries that they have right now. Obviously, not having Miro is massive. We'll get more information on Monday. We'll talk about it next week on Wednesday after the Columbus games, and then whatever game is on Tuesday. I can't remember if it's LA or Anaheim, but we'll talk about that later when we get more updates on Miro. But not having Miro sucks, but the defense just got a little bit better because you got more depth out of it, and you got another right-handed guy. And that's been the biggest issue with this team, is that you don't have enough right-handed guys to pair with Miro. So Miro is playing on his right side instead of his left side, his strong side. Now you got Harley, Labushkin, Lindell, Ceci, Dumba, Bischel. Bischel's been a stud. I think he could lay like 30 hits in a game one night if you wanted him to. Like, if he played 20 minutes, he can get 30 hits. It's incredible how many times he hits people. So shoring up the back end was a big issue now with Nils Lundqvist going on LTIR, and that's what we were going to talk about, but all of a sudden they just made the trade 2 hours later. So I'm happy with the trade. Obviously, a first-round pick is a lot, but you didn't give up Logan Stankoven, Maverick Bourque, or Liam Bischel, who are going to be 3 of your cornerstones for the next 10 years or so, along with, obviously, Rupe, Miro, Wyatt, Robo. Like, all those guys are going to be staying now because those are UFAs. They're not coming back next year unless they come back on a smaller deal, which is huge because now you got free money. You're playing with house money right now because of LTIR. And we're not doing it the way Vegas did, where Mark Stone mysteriously just has spleen removal surgery and is just like going to be gone for the next 3 months. That doesn't make any sense. Tyler Seguin's hip just tore off his bone, essentially. He had to get a new hip, basically. And then Nils, like, his shoulder injury happened in preseason. He played all the way until the end of January, and now he had to get surgery. He played through an injury, made it worse, and now he has to get surgery. So props to Nils for playing through that, but yeah, this team's a cup contender after this trade. And there's still around $3 to $4 million left by the time the trade deadline hits that they could play around with some more on LTIR. So they could go get another UFA and it not affect anything that's happening next year.
Yeah. So, like, when we heard about Niels and, fans got to win, like, we already had Sagan's LTIR money. Now we're having Niels. Like, let's play Monopoly here. It's moves like this that always over time grow to be really good moves. I'm a Rockets fan. I remember everyone saying that Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet was a bad idea to pay them that much money when we had so much cap. Yeah, they're second in the West.
Yeah.
So are they the superstar? Like, are they the Jimmy Butler? Are they the De'Aaron Fox? No, but when you have this much chemistry and a good coach like Ime Udoka, I can put it right to my stars. You have this much chemistry and you have Peter DeBoer on the bench. Like, you don't need the prima donnas. You don't need the JT Millers. You need the camaraderie that gets you. The Stars are so good in low scoring games. I think we have the best record when the differential is like 1 or 2 goals. And getting more guys like the guys that we just got, it's the bet. You're not gonna like it when it broke. Just like I was kind of like, whoa, what, wow. But you're gonna love it when we get to the postseason and our boys get healthy, and we already had the most depth and we just got more. So I think it's gonna be a trade we look back on being like, man, that served us now and that served us in the future.
And I think it's cool because Granlund is going to be on the Four Nations roster for Finland. So he will be playing with Rupe Hintz and Esa Lindell. I'm not sure if he's going to be on the line with Hintz, but he probably will have time on ice with Lindell. So you get a little bit of chemistry building post this week into Four Nations for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden it's game on after that. There's 20 games left or 17 games left in the season and after Four Nations. So building chemistry is going to be huge. Obviously, CC's not going to have that opportunity for Four Nations, but I'm sure a lot of the guys may not even go on vacation for Four Nations that aren't playing in it. Like, some of them may go, the veterans may go, but I think some of the younger guys, they may just stay in Dallas and they're just going to go practice and they're just going to get to know each other and on and off the ice and build the chemistry that way. And Jim Nill, I believe, or Pete DeBoer, I can't remember who it was, said this morning that Jamie Benn has been the catalyst in the locker room for the team this year. He is the captain. Everyone will follow the captain, obviously, and it's cool to hear that. He's carrying the team through all of these injuries because you got to think about it. There's so many injuries now. So many people have missed ice time, and keeping them afloat, but not just afloat, but second in the Central. Like they're in a prime playoff spot right now. They were in the same spot last year before the trade deadline, essentially, and then they were the best team in hockey after that, after the trade deadline. So keeping them afloat, and I think Jim Nill said it was just a reward. Like, thank you for keeping the team afloat and getting us to this position that we're in right now. Here's a reward. Here's Mikael Granlund. Here's Cody Ceci. Here's some more depth. Here's some more scoring. Here's some more defense. Go keep winning, and let's go get a cup this year. That's how I perceived it, and that's how I think the locker room is going to perceive it. I think the locker room's got to be pumped up about it. Like, hey, we're getting these guys back, and we just added these two dudes to the locker room. Like, we're going for it this year. We're going to do it.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing in the world to have the amount of injuries that the Dallas Stars have had and still not really waver too much. I mean, we're like one or two more injuries from turning into like the Dallas Mavericks. Like,
yeah,
that's how bad it's getting. And not to talk NBA, but I actually like the Dallas Mavericks roster if they were healthy. But
they're healthy. You're one of the best teams in the West. It's ridiculous.
I would hate to see them in the playoffs with my Rockets. That kind of
I
scary.
hope that 2-7 matchup happens. I talk about it on Zero Gravity, our NBA podcast, all the time. I need it.
We don't really match up that well. I mean, 7 games. I don't know if we could do it, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's just a testament to like how connected these boys are together because, not many teams will go through this many injuries and still be on the heater that we're on. Robo, I will not take any Robo slander from anybody. Since January, he's been the best goal scorer in the world. I'll argue with anyone. Rupe's been on his stuff. I said it a long time ago. He's going to get to the Four Nations and go off. I still stand by that today. And once we get the right pairing with these guys, it's going to turn some heads league-wide. People are going to notice, if they haven't by now, that the Dallas Stars are not a team you want to see in the postseason.
Absolutely not. And they weren't beforehand. And that's the scary part for everybody else, I think. So Stars fans, I believe, should be happy. Obviously, we got to see how the trade shakes out and Four Nations and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully no more injuries happen. We're knocking on wood. But we get some of these guys back. Marchman's going to come back next week. You're adding Granlund and Ceci tomorrow. Stars just got deeper and better, and that's a scary thought for everyone in the league because we play in a great barn. Our media is really good. We were talking about it yesterday when playing Vancouver. One of the media members had to go write a story for NHL, but she had to go to the Vancouver locker room and talk to them. And someone asked, Pettersson was like, hey, what do you think about the trade? Like, are you happy about it? Due to all the drama and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, I'm not answering that question. Whereas our media members would never ask the Stars fans, like, or Stars players, like, hey, are you happy about this guy being traded out of the locker room? Like, we would ask, what do you think, or all that kind of stuff. But they were like, are you happy he's gone? Like, this is ridiculous. We live in a market where hockey isn't the biggest thing, but it is a very big thing, and everyone's passionate about it, but they're more polite and not trying to get dirt on all these guys like Toronto or Boston or Chicago would. Like, we live in a very player-friendly market, and now these two guys are going to be added into it, and they were in a player-friendly market in San Jose, but no one cared because Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith are the show, and no one cared about anyone else on that team. So now they get to come to a team that's a cup contender. They get to be integral pieces of a cup contender as well, as opposed to integral pieces on a rebuilding team like, hey, go mentor these guys. So it's a complete mental shift for them where they get to go actually compete. Not that they weren't competing in San Jose, but it's a different type of competition when you're competing for a cup. So it's a good trade, and you didn't give up in your 3 just chip pieces where Bork, Stankoven, and Bischel. So I think it's a win, and Jim Nill did what he said he was going to do. Once the Tyler Seguin news broke, he's like, we're going to be in the market. We'll let you know when it happens. So he followed up on that and rewarded the Stars players and the Stars fans in general.
Yeah, and if I can, like, shout out to the Dallas media because that goes a long way in free agents. I mean, I've listened to Matt Duchene's interview with the Chicklets guys, and he's like, dude, I I think I found a home here in Dallas. Like the community, the fans, like everybody, it's a great place for my kids to play hockey. Like there's so less, I can just play hockey and it shows. I mean, Duchesne's playing some of the best hockey I've seen him play. And he's not stressed out. I mean, I couldn't imagine playing for the Maple Leafs. No wonder they haven't really made a big cup push, and they got some really talented players because they got fans and media members in their grill every night. Speaking of Toronto, if Robo's little brother, I'd get out of there if I was him. I mean, I think a new change of scenery would be good for him. But yeah, I mean, the community in Dallas just lets you be free and play Dallas Stars hockey, especially with a coach like DeBoer. And I'm very confident that like this depth will beat out the depth of a lot of other teams, and that's going to go a long way. I love the move. The more I talk about it, I love the move.
Yeah, and I think this one's different than the past couple of years where they added Max Domi and Evgeny Dadonov, and Chris Tanev was a huge piece. I'm not going to discount him. I think he was a really big contributor to the Dallas Stars and what they needed. Obviously, they needed some depth and an actual stud defenseman. They added that, but that was it. I think this is the one move where it's like, okay, they're in it this year. They're all in it, and they didn't sacrifice their future. They gave up a first-round pick, sure, but with this draft, apparently it's not that good, so people are trading their first-round picks because they're like, yeah, I'd rather have a guy and go for a cup this year than have a first-round pick and wait for him for 3-4 years before he shows up into the show. So I think they're going for it, and I think they're going to make one more move closer to the trade deadline, first week of March. I think that's when it's going to happen, and they can add another piece. If something happens in between Four Nations and then they're able to go do that with another $3 million, and they could trade an actual NHL piece and add cap that way as well. So world's kind of your oyster if you're Jim Nill. Like, you're going to see how this works for 2 weeks of the season, essentially first week of February and last week of February in between Four Nations. And then you got a week to make your trade in the beginning of March. So it's a big move. It's a swing. We'll see if it misses or hits. And right now it's a hit. It's a single. Maybe it's a double, but we'll see if it's a home run by the time we get to June.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about this season more than any other season is we kind of had a soft trade deadline. Adding in these new pieces, we get a little bit of time to see if we need to make another move, and if we don't, we get to find out. I don't even know what the next move would look like, but that's kind of what you want as a GM, is for your players and your organization to be so well run. No one's kind of playing 3D chess on you. And that's what Jim Nill has been able to do. He's done a fantastic job. And he's in that like Nick Caserio, Jeff Lunau territory where it's like when they make a move, I know they didn't rush anything. I know they have a purpose, and I know they stand by it. They're going to be deliberate, and even if it flops, it's not going to flop too bad because they've made so many good moves beforehand. And yeah, we're going to see how things play out.
Yeah, he's won GM of the Year 2 years in a row, and that's for a reason. He's done the right moves at the right time for the right price. He's never given up too much. He's never given up something that's like hurt the Stars for the future. Like, he hasn't. The last 3 seasons now, it's like all of our studs are still with us. Stankov and Bork and Bischel. They're all still here. So it's huge. It's a huge trade. We'll see how it plays out, but we'll be back later this week. We'll talk about some of the games and then kind of how the integration of the new guys shows up in the first 2 games of that. And we'll be here to talk hockey on a Clean Sheet of Ice, Texas Hockey Podcast presented by Apollo Media. Shout out to Prize Picks. Use code Apollo when you sign up and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app. You hit more or less on stats every night, every game, every night, every player. So shout out to Prize Picks. Shout out to you, Dom, for hopping on a Saturday afternoon talking about a trade for the Dallas Stars. We're excited about it. Can't wait to see how it works out. So any last words, Dom?
All I'm going to say is, if Stank, dude, I think Stank's going to get going when he finds a new pairing. And if we can get our D to just stay our D, man, like that's the whole thing. It's like, just keep the train rolling And I think we're setting ourselves up to have the cup run that I thought we would have in years past.
I'm so excited for the cup run. We need a cup run. I'm going to be there in the building. I'm going to be going to the games, me in the press box, see the whole thing. Playoffs is the best time. NHL playoffs are the best playoffs that you can go to. So if you're able to go to a Dallas Stars game or any NHL playoff game this summer, go. I highly recommend it if you're not into hockey, just to go to a playoff game and experience it, because you'll understand after that. So let's gear up for the Stars Cup run. We've got a few more months left, and then get some of those players back, go to the Cup. Let's win a cup, bring home the shiny silver medal, and I'm excited. So great trade from Jim Nill. We'll see how it works out for the Stars, but this has been Clean Sheet of Ice, the Texas Hockey Podcast by Apollo Media.